Great. So we'll continue on. Again, my name is Michelle Schneider. I'm one of the facilitators for the CMP study group. And I've had my CMP designation since 2009. So I've actually certified twice already, which is awesome. So once you pass the exam, you want to make sure that you keep up with your continuing education so that you don't have to take the exam again, and just apply with your recertification. And then one of our other facilitators here, I'll have her introduce herself. Terri.
Hi, I'm Terri Stevenson. I work with Balboa Travel here in San Diego, and I'm going through my second certification right now. I have to certify by January 2021. So I've had my CMP for 10 years. Michelle was actually my CMP study group facilitator, and I just really loved the program, and so I started volunteering right away. So that's great. Welcome. And we had a virtual session. Our last session was virtual, and we didn't know how it was going to go, and it was really, really good. It was one of the most interactive group of people that we had. So don't be nervous at all about the virtual thing, because it was great. So yeah.
And then Julie.
Yeah.
Hi everyone, I'm Julie Hager. I am the event planner at Norellis in San Diego. I was certified with my CMP in 2017. I actually was just taking a look to see when my recertification was coming up, because I do not want to do it again. But I mean, it was great. It's a long process. So, you know, let's do it once and then, and then recertify. And I'm so happy to join this group of women that are leading this study group, because I found it so helpful my first time around. And I do see a lot of the value in the collaborative effort of getting through that process with a team, you know, because it's a lot to digest, and it's so helpful to have other people to bounce it off of and to find out what worked for one person. So I'm happy to join this group for these study sessions this year. So it's nice to meet everyone.
Great. Thanks, Julie. So we'll go ahead and get started on the information. I know we have a lot of folks on the line, and we'll get to know each other soon enough. Let's see here. So welcome everyone. What we wanted to do a little bit first is do some housekeeping, so you have an idea of how the session is going to go. So if you have any comments or questions, please post them in the chat box, and then we'll have some opportunities for us to answer those for you as we move through the presentation. As I mentioned, this information and the recording will be available after the meeting, so we are being recorded during this session. And just to get a sense of where we all are in terms of our CMP journey, let's do a little activity. Type in the chat box, what month, year do you plan to take the exam? And then also, what level of knowledge do you have regarding the exam? One, being brand new to the process, two, needing a bit more information, and three, just ready to go and take the exam. You just need to get those study sessions in. So go ahead and type into the chat box your answers to those two questions. Okay. So Janessa is January, February, grades. Oh, great. So at the turn of the year. Cindy's doing in 2021. And Kimberly also 2021. Okay. Excellent. Okay, well, great. Thanks everyone for sharing. One of the reasons why I chose to pursue my CMP was I wanted to be able to elevate my knowledge, my standardized knowledge of meeting and event planning, but also to show my dedication to the profession itself. And so that's one of the reasons, or a couple of the reasons why I decided to take my CMP and pursue that. Terri, how about you? You want to talk a little bit about why you pursued your CMP?
Yeah, same thing, just to get the designation, it kind of is recognized in the industry. And it really does, you know, I didn't come from a hospitality background. I was a travel agent in my previous life. And as I wanted to cross over from doing more of a sales to doing more event planning, I just thought it would legitimize what I was doing. So it was great.
Thanks, Terri. How about you, Julie?
Sure. I mean, similarly, I know it has a bit of status behind it. And so for me, that was really desirable. And also to be seen as, you know, a serious event planning professional. I had some background, but I definitely wanted to take that leap to some sort of elevated projects. And I knew that that would help me to be looked at as a serious event planning professional. So I really did a lot of that for the certification and the status of having that behind my name.
Thanks, Julie, for sharing.
Yeah.
Moving on to the next. Okay, so what is a CMP? I noticed that some folks indicated one on their the information there in the chat box. So what is a CMP? It stands for Certified Meeting Professional, and it's a program administered by the Events Industry Council. It's the foremost certification of meetings, conventions, and exhibitions industry. It's one of the most recognizable in our industry. It recognizes individuals who have achieved the industry's highest standard of professionalism. And there are about over 11,000 individuals in 55 countries that actually have this designation. Its inception was in 1985. And so since then, the program itself has grown, and the EIC is actually focused on continuing to grow it even further as we change the way that we do the work that we do in this industry. And so they are in the process right now of expanding the program so that more individuals can get their CMP designation. So we talked a little bit about why we became certified meeting professionals and why we wanted our CMP designation. And so why become a certified meeting professional? Recognition, the CMP distinguishes holders as career professionals who have demonstrated a high level of experience, skill, and knowledge. It gives you somewhat of a competitive advantage. So the designation itself conveys credibility of your work and in the greater meetings, conventions, and exhibits industry. Peer acceptance, CMPs are immediately recognized by other CMPs. In some instances, it can provide salary enhancement. So when you're negotiating salaries or when you're positioning yourself for a position, it can be something that helps enhance that opportunity. Personal achievement. After passing the rigorous application and examination process, there is a sense of accomplishment where you have now finally been regarded as the professional that you are. So there is that sense of personal achievement that I think as we move through this process, you'll see that there is a lot of work to it. And so actually getting your CMP designation is a really big accomplishment. And commitment. It conveys your commitment to the profession and that you are goal-driven in your career. So those are some of the reasons why folks become CMPs. Okay, so now the CMP process. You can actually apply anytime. You want to go to the EIC website, that's Events Industry Council website, and download the CMP Candidate Handbook. There's also a handbook addendum that's been included to review the process now that COVID has affected the process itself. And so there's an addendum to the handbook. The CMP International Standards You want to make sure that you download that and read through it carefully. It has a lot of really good information about what is in the exam and how much information in each section the exam will cover. And then watch the CMP candidate webinar. So they posted a new webinar on the EIC website that goes over the whole process and in depth. And then it also gives you an hour of professional learning credit. So that's another reason why to watch the CMP candidate webinar. You want to fill out the online application and submit it to the EIC for approval. So that's the link here to the application. If you haven't signed up yet for your EIC account, make sure you do that. And that's the way that you're going to track all of your professional development and all of your collateral that goes along with that. So that's where you're going to keep track of all of your pieces for the application. You'll receive approval within 3 to 5 weeks of your application. So sometimes it's 3 weeks, sometimes they take the full 5 weeks. So it just depends, but about 3 to 5 weeks from the date of your application to when you are notified that you've been approved to take the exam. And once you're approved to take the exam, you pay your exam fee with the EIC. You'll schedule your exam with Prometric, and then you'll sit for the exam. You have 1 year from your application approval to sit for the exam and pass. So this first step is the CMP application. So the application is made up of 2 areas of focus. The first area of focus is the professional experience in the industry. The second is internship or continuing education, and that creates the information that you submit for your CMP application. First section is the professional experience in the industry. So there are 3 options: 3 years of industry work experience. Now that 3 years doesn't necessarily have to be 3 consecutive years. It could be 3 years of industry work experience within the last 5 years. So for instance, if you currently are not working right now, you could still sit for the exam or apply for the program and sit for the exam if you have at least 3 years of industry work experience in the last 5 years. The other option for professional experience is a degree in meeting, event, exhibition, or hospitality tourism management plus 2 years of work experience. Again, the 2 years of work experience is within the last 5 years. And then the third option is your full-time instructor who has taught for 3 years in a meeting hospitality university program. And so that covers professional experience in the industry. Now, before I move on to the continuing education piece, does anyone have any questions?
I do. So would a degree, so I just completed the, certification with SDSU for meetings, and does that count? I'm also in the grad school program, but that just began. So would that count as, because I'm like at 2 years in the last 5 years, plus I just finished the professional certificate. Does that count as a degree program?
So the professional certificate does not count as a degree program. However, you can utilize all of those hours in the continuing education portion. So you can, all the classes that you took for that certificate program, you could utilize in the continuing education section.
Okay, sorry to be
nope.
specific about
That's
me.
A great question. And then the degree itself would have to be completed in order to count as the degree and then the 2 years.
Okay.
So for that particular option.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Okay, good question. Thank you, Cindy. And so the next section of the application has to do with internship or continuing education. So there's 2 options for this section. Completion of 25 hours of continuing education within the past 5 years, or completion of approved internship apprenticeship in the industry of 200 hours. And that 200 hours also has to be credit-based for a program that you're part of in terms of your college or school. So face-to-face conferences, webinars, classes, and individual sessions, those count as continuing education. So like I mentioned, Cindy, your classes for the certificate program would count as professional development or continuing education as long as they fit within the domains. Subject matter must relate to one of the 9 domains in the CMP International Standards. 5 of the hours can actually be non-industry specific if it relates to one of the 9 domains. So basically, if, for instance, you took a class that was on project management, it doesn't necessarily had to do with the events, but it's part of the work that you do as an event planner. So that could be used as a non-industry specific continuing education course. You do not need to have activities in all 9 domains. So you could have it in 5 domains or 6, just as long as you cover the 25 hours. Documentation is required. So that would be any type of certificate or registration, syllabus, in order to show that you did attend the classes or the conferences, webinars, or sessions. Lisa Kelly is our Director of Education Programs for MPI San Diego, and she is actually responsible for the education programs that are happening throughout the fall. So if you, and actually throughout the spring as well. So if you have a need for continuing education, definitely check out the education programs that are offered by MPI San Diego, because they have hours associated with that, and they will relate to one of the 9 domains. So you want to definitely check that out. If you have any questions, definitely check in with Lisa at MPI San Diego, and she can provide more information as to what's to come for the education programs.
And Michelle, you're going to talk about tracking them on the EIC, creating a profile and tracking them.
Yeah, actually, yeah. So what you do is when you create your account at the EIC, that's where you're going to track all of the information for your continuing education. You'll also have to include in there your resume and your work experience. So that would be part of what you input into the EIC application process. And yeah, you want to make sure that you catalog and you place all of the evidence into your continuing education portion of your application. Some continuing education will automatically show up into your EIC account because you've signed up for something that is an EIC approved event. And so what you want to do is make sure that you use the same email address that you're using for your account so that they can match up you with your continuing education. So you just want to make sure you're using all the same email addresses. Terry, Julie, do you want to add anything else to that?
One thing I was thinking about is with the documentation required, although EIC will collect a lot of data or you can upload, I maintained my own file and I saved everything. So I just highly recommend saving everything, even, you know, if and when we can attend in person. You know, I think I had name badges, I had the confirmation emails, because later when you submit, and I don't want to jump ahead, but when you submit your application, you need to provide all of this. And I want to tell you this much, I did not want to be denied because I didn't give ample documentation. So I went for more than less. So I just kept, you know, in a cabinet, I started collecting all of my information as I went through, and I found that very helpful later because it was just all sort of in this one nice big pile of documentation.
Yeah, and definitely document more hours than is required, just in case 1 or 2 hours is questionable. Document more than you need, and that doesn't hurt for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So what you all need to do is when you're completing your application, make sure you have that candidate handbook because it has all the full requirements and all the descriptions. So you want to download the handbook, the addendum, and the international standards. So you have all of that information for your application process. So deadlines and fees, so testing windows. We are now year round for testing. So there isn't, you know, a January, May, August, November exam. It's just throughout the year now. And so that's something that's new. The program fees, I think, are remaining the same throughout, at least throughout the rest of this year. And I anticipate through next year as well. But the CMP application submission fee for 2020 is $250. The exam fee is $475. And if you have to reschedule, it's $75, unless for some reason there is something, some sort of COVID-related force majeure type of thing that doesn't allow you to take your exam. There will not be a rescheduling fee for that. But so there typically would be if you were to reschedule your exam. So those are the deadlines and fees. Any questions so far? Okay. Some testing options. So you could do in-center testing and make an appointment for Prometric, depending on where you live. And if the center itself is open, you could do it in person. There is remote proctoring appointments. So there are remote opportunities to take the exam. We just had one of our CMP study group members from this past session take it remotely. So that was very interesting to hear about that experience. However, so those are some of the options that you have in making your appointment with regard to the exam. Now for either option, you must have a minimum of 90 days between exam attempts. So for instance, if you don't do so well in the first exam and you are going to take it again, there still has to be that 90 days in between those attempts in order to take it. And then the EIC obviously and Prometric are monitoring the situation with regard to COVID. And so check in often with Prometric as your exam date gets closer. So you just want to make sure that you're on top of, all of the things that could potentially be happening that will affect your exam date. The exam structure, it is computer-based. It's no longer a paper and pencil exam. It's all on the computer. When you go into the exam room, if you actually take it at the center, it's actually a bunch of folks taking different exams for different things. And so you're not just in there with other folks taking their CMPs. So it is computer-based. It's 165 multiple choice questions. 150 are operational questions, which are the ones that are actually scored. And then 15 are unscored questions. So these are like test questions that they're trying out to see if they're going to include it into future exams. The problem is you don't know which ones are the unscored questions. So you just have to answer them all. And then it's 4 answer choices. So A, B, C, D. And then there's no trick questions. Everything for the most part you'll know is any of the 4 answers could potentially be the answer, but there's always going to be the one best answer. And so that's how the questions are structured. There's no all of the above or none of the above. You are going to have 3.5 hours to take the exam. It's a pass or fail score. And it's only offered in English language, so translation is not available. So just so that you are aware, obviously for us, for this study group or this cadre of folks, we will be most likely taking it in English since there's not a translation anyway available. Let's see. Preparing for the exam, there are study textbooks. The EIC manual, 9th edition, you want to make sure you get the correct edition because anything earlier than the 9th edition is going to not be correct. So you want to make sure you get the 9th edition. It's $99.95. And there's an ebook format that's actually a little cheaper. And then you can get both the hard copy and the ebook combo, both of them for a discounted price. The Events Industry Council glossary for $35. And then the the Professional Meeting Management PMM, the 6th edition, that's $110. What we typically recommend is you make sure you get the EIC manual and the Events Industry Council glossary. So you want to make sure you have those for sure. I do like the PMM because if you want to get a little bit more information about a particular topic or subject into and dive a little bit deeper into that, the PMM will actually be a really great reference just to get a little bit more information with regard to that particular topic. So that's why I like the PMM. There are online courses. I know that there's some other online courses for MPI that might be doing more like a study session as opposed to a study group. It would be more like on your own studying. And then also PSMA does an online course preparation for those who are taking their CMP exam. And then there's study groups. So CMP candidates studying for the exam are encouraged to consider participating in a sponsored CMP study group. What's great about study groups is that you experience the opportunity to study with other candidates in your geographic area. You sharpen your standardized testing skills by experiencing different exam styles, and then you get helpful test taking tips. So those are all the benefits of joining a study group. So I'm at a point right now, actually, where I just wanted to kind of do a temperature check to see where everybody's at. Let's see here. So type in the chat box, how are you feeling about the information given tonight? 1, I still need more information. 2, I'm scared but excited to start the process. 3, I'm ready to dive right in. So let's take some time into the chat box to see where you're at. Okay, pretty great. Okay, so get more information. Okay, all right. We will, and yeah, we'll answer that question. Okay. Okay, great.
Perfect. A little bit of everything.
And so, Kelly, in terms of experience, specifically, what would you, for instance, what situation is your experience currently? Oh, I think you're muted, sorry.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So I owned a wedding or event facility for 10 years, and we are approaching the 5th year. I have a degree in hospitality management. I have enough of the professional hours or the educational hours, and obviously I've worked for Creative Coverings for 2 years, assisting meeting planners, and then I've worked for court for a year, assisting meeting planners. So do you think that that is enough experience?
I think so, as long as it equals the 3 years. But you also said you had a degree as well.
Yeah, I have a bachelor's in hospitality management.
Yeah, I think that could serve well, just as long as it's within the last 5 years. So yeah, I think that should
no,
be.
My degree was not in the last 5 years.
Oh, I'm sorry, your experience. Yeah.
That was like 100 years ago.
Yeah.
Yes, so as long as your experience has been in the last 5 years, then yes, coupled with your degree whenever it was achieved.
Okay, great.
Okay. Any other questions? Holly, Karen, are there other questions that you might have that maybe we can explain right now or get more information to you?
I'm sorry, I actually joined late, so, but I would just like some more general information, but maybe I can do that on the sideline.
Okay, yeah, and actually we recorded this session, and then we'll make this a PowerPoint available to you guys as well.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you.
And then Holly typed in, yeah, for the last, you've worked for court for 12 years. Does that complete the required experience?
What was your role there, Holly, or what is your role? You're muted as well.
Hi.
Hi.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, great. I'm an account executive. So I do floor plans and put together concepts occasionally, but mostly it's just furniture rental
Okay. Okay.
for all types of events and meetings.
All types of events. Yeah, because I think since it is industry related, that would work. I would also suggest to just shooting an email over to EIC just to make sure, so that you feel confident once you put together your application. But I think that does, it would be considered industry related, yes.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Any other questions? Cindy?
Yes. I'm going to ask one more question. So what if in between, like you've been doing some subcontract work, I mean, up until about like March, April, is there a way to like prove that, or, you know what I mean? Just, I don't know. I'm like right on the verge here within like a month or two of reaching that minimum time. So I'm just trying to figure out when the best timing for the test for me is.
So you're looking to ensure that you have enough experience to be able to apply it to the program application.
Well, what's crazy is I have about 20 years experience in the industry, but as far as like the last, you know, I had kids and everything. So as far as the last 5 years go, probably about 2, you know, in the industry again, when my daughter went to kindergarten, but some subcontracting work here and there in between. So I'm wondering if there's a way, sorry to be so specific to me. I could ask you offline if you want, but I just figured I would ask how that works.
Yeah, I would include any type of work that was in the events industry that you could include in there, and whatever the span time that you did that work. So okay. I would include that and just see how, like you said, how much it actually totals up to. Okay. You might be right there. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you.
Well, so that's pretty much it with regard to the CMP program and also the study options. If you have any questions, we definitely are here to answer that for you. Also,
that's not your email address anymore.
Oh yeah, sorry. I do have to update that. I will update that email. Just make sure that you have all my current contact information. And then, but if you have any questions, definitely let us know. We'll send this information out as well. And if you are interested in going ahead to sign up for the study group, we'll send a follow-up to update your registration. It's basically updating your registration from the study session or this info session for the study group. So we'll send you the information on how to update that. Other than that, Terry, Julie, you have anything else to add?
Well, once you sign up, we'll send you the syllabus, and so you'll have every date as to when the meetings are. And then basically, yeah, what we do is take turns, or what you guys do is take turns presenting. And the main function of the study group is to get everybody talking about things, because the more you talk about it, the more you'll remember and the more you'll relate to what the content is. It's not a matter of just memorizing the book. It's a matter of how do you take that information in a real life situation and make it happen. So that's our goal, is to talk about it and think about scenarios and do little tests at the end. And so that's what it's about. So yeah.
Yeah, and to sort of echo that, having gone through the study group just before getting my CMP, for me it was a matter of accountability. There's a lot of content. There's so much information out there. And, you know, I pulled out my books from when I did this, and I just was looking at all of the writing and all of the, you know, the practice exams. And I found that, you know, practicing this in different ways. So the reading, presenting, sharing, there's, you know, apps that also help, you know, that was really what helped me get over the hump, because I know that I had just had a child, and that's when I came back to work and I thought, oh no, I had already said I want my CMP and now I have to do it. And I probably would have fallen sort of to the wayside because it's a lot. It's a lot, but when you have a team of people that, you know, help push you through it, it really helps you get to that end, you know. And so that's really one of the biggest parts of the study group for me, was to keep me on track and to keep me reading and accountable to the people. And you kind of bond, you know, you bond through the pain, and it ends up being awesome. You know, you get this big reward. So thank you all for your time tonight.
I must say, I love on LinkedIn, I'm seeing a whole bunch of pictures of people with their I passed and a bottle of champagne. There seem to be quite a few people doing it right about now. So it's kind of cool to see it. Yeah.
Very cool.
Well, hopefully I will see you all soon, joining us for the study group, or if you have any questions or anything like that, even if you decide not to join the study group, we are a resource for you. You know, Julie, Terri, and I, we are volunteers. You know, we don't get paid to do the study group, but we love being able to provide, you know, just help for those who want to pursue their further their education, but also just really give back to the events industry, an industry that for me has given me so much. And so, so I know that all of you are really committed, dedicated individuals. Obviously, showing up here for this information session shows that. So definitely we are here for you in your pursuit of your education goals.
Okay.
Well, thanks everyone.
Okay.
Thank you.
Time.
Have a